Okay, here we go. So, State of Being Gathering. I think that is. Yes, here we go. I like this. Sounds nice and open and sparse. It's nice. Loudest range 3.6 again, quite high. However, I appreciate looking at the waveform alone. There's quite a lot of content in here. But let's have a listen. And overall, I haven't commented on this yet, but yeah, like integrated loudness at 9, but you should never shoot for a value. You should never aim for a target. But minus 9.4 is competitive, and I think that works really well. I think you've got a nice loudness there across the board. And all the three songs as well, they're all sitting in a similar pocket between sort of loudness range of -2 to -6, I think it was. And your integrated loudness is quite stable across the board, as is your true peak as well. So as a collection of songs, if they are an EP, I think they work well together. Might be inclined to say that kick and snare might be too loud. Again, creative choices, but they come in quite loud. Maybe a dB or two lower. I say that, mainly the snare. I don't think it's the snare. I think the snare's right. I think you've got like a shaker or something. Maybe you could position it left or right, which inherently does like audibly sensory illusion drop the volume, perceived volume. Sometimes. So I'd want that evolving synth to be a touch louder. I'd say that section's really nice, but maybe it just needs a bit more in terms of dynamic range. It's all. Imagine somebody speaking in the same voice, monotone sort of voice. I'm not saying it's monotone by any stretch. What I'm saying is, there's maybe some subtle variation in dynamics when certain notes are hit, might help that section a touch. That's me being really, really picky, by the way, being really picky. In that section there, that's where your sort of new snare sound and that sort of gnarly synth sound should be the two main focal points. You could almost bring that shaker down a touch. So this section feels like it's got a bit more dynamics with that synth sound. This section here, it's I don't know if you've got a limiter on this, but it sounds maybe a touch squashed, for want of a better way of putting it. Everything's sort of up here, very much up here. One to be wary of. I immediately like that synth sound. That sounds so cool. Cool. Right, let's have a listen in Reaper. So here we are in Reaper. From my initial listen in RX Audio, there weren't many major things with EQ, if I remember rightly, but we'll go from the top and have a listen. Yeah, I like this. I think this section's cool. So I paused and I had to pause the video because I sneezed. So let's go back. With this bit here, I don't necessarily think there's anything EQ wise that needs to be done. It just sounds very much like this shaker might be a bit too loud in that instance. As I said, I think throughout this maybe there is potential that it might be just possibly a bit too slammed. With what maybe a limiter, possibly. One to consider, one to be wary of, I think, with that one there. Because I think if you listened, you could quite easily get ear fatigue when something's so quiet, when you've got everything at a high level throughout a piece. I say slammed. Slammed is probably the wrong choice of word because it sounds quite like it's a negative term. It's certainly not in this instance. It's just there is potential there. That might be why I'm hearing everything like it's at me here. Again, creative choices though. If that's the sound you're going for, then stick with it. Yeah, I mean, with that shaker at that volume, I'd be inclined to have like some dynamic EQ on the, like a dynamic high shelf, just. Yeah, just to tame that shaker a touch. I mean, that's minus 3 dB. In mastering, that's more than I'd want to do. Usually in mastering, it's very sort of like 0.51 dB cuts here and there, or boosts. See here, it feels the kick and the shaker are the two focal elements here, and that evolving synth is in the background. If that's what you go for, then great. If it's not, I might be inclined to bring that shaker down and bring that synth forward. Even want a bit more low end. Yeah, maybe around 90 hertz, low shelf, 1 dB, 1.5 dB. For this section here, it's sort of like the same as my previous comment, although I feel like the evolving synth is taking a bit more of a step forward. With that snare, I'd be inclined to maybe add a little bit of a tail to it, maybe with some verb or some reverb or something like that. Just a really small amount. See, that synth is coming there, and that is taking the step. That's now in the front, and that's saying, okay, I'm on the main piece here. And then you kind of got your kick and your shaker taking a back step, which is kind of the opposite to the evolving synth, which I get could be a creative decision, because that way you've got that nice difference between sections where one synth's playing the back, is in the back seat, as it were, second fiddle almost, and then the next scene, that's another synth's taking center stage. So I want that synth to be louder here, maybe by a dB, and maybe bring that shaker down. I think just in general, I think the shaker could just come down with a touch throughout the track, and you might not need to make as many changes throughout. It's quite narrow. There's quite a lot going down the middle as well. Which is kind of how, I mean, I get the sound design, the sound choices here is quite sparse in sections. And you don't want things to go wildly left or right just because. But maybe you could move the shaker. You could automate that panning position of it. got a lead synth there, which is really nice. I really like it. It's almost like it kind of reminds me of Terminator in a way. And I might be inclined to duck a couple dB of that frequency of that synth out that snare. There you go. It's around 3 to 3.3 kilohertz, maybe a 1-2 dB dip, or even side chain compression of the snare in that frequency band, just to help that synth come through a bit. Because it's a really cool and nice sounding synth. Just be careful of that low frequency build up again, anything below sort of 100 hertz. Again, it's one of those ones. I'm not saying high pass filter everything, but just maybe experiment with some low shelves just to create a bit of space down there. Maybe the bass, I think there's a bass in there, could come up just a touch. Cool, there we go, buddy. So that's the third and final track. So with this one here, I think obviously I'm hedging my bets and saying there's some sort of limiting put on it, but it does sound like everything at times is quite pushed. So maybe just backing off that a touch could help. I could be totally wrong there, but this is going off what I can hear. And also letting that lead synth at the end come through, and I think just overall the shakers I think is a bit too loud. But again, this is all creative decisions, so I totally appreciate if that is your sound design, your sound choice, your mix choice, and you want to run with it. As always with these videos, it's just what I'm interpreting, and then you can use that information as you see fit. And of course, you can always ask me questions if none of it makes sense, or you may even disagree, which is totally fine, which is great. Challenge me on it, and more than happy to have a chat about that. As I always do in these videos, at the end I waffle on a bit. But hopefully these have been of some help. If you've watched it in order, this is kind of me wrapping up the three. If you haven't, then I'm kind of wrapping it up, and it might not make sense. But hopefully it does. As always, like I say, do ask any questions if you do have any. And yeah, it's been a pleasure going through these tunes for you, buddy. And yeah, enjoy.